Hey, welcome back. I failed to realize that my method for saving thousands of dollars on groceries might not work for everybody because not every household is an ingredient household. Now, this is not a new thing to me. I've heard this before, and I kind of feel like I'm in between an ingredient household and like a ready-made household. But I think I lean a lot more towards the ingredient household. But today in this video, I just want to talk about that concept, what it means, and what maybe you can do if you're not an ingredient household, and maybe a few other tips and tricks on things that I do here in my household to save money that maybe are a little bit different than everybody else. So the first thing I want to do is show you a real look at my actual fridge right before I go grocery shopping and before I clean it out. So every single week before I take inventory and plan my meals, I like to get rid of, packaging that's maybe got one or two things left in it so I can actually see it. But I also throw away leftovers maybe I forgot to freeze, or random bits of food that my son saved that he didn't get around to eating. So this is what my fridge looks like right before I go grocery shopping. My husband went rogue again and went and bought meat from a meat market. He's a sucker for meat, especially when it comes to like butchers and local small businesses, Mexican markets and things like that. So we got a new Mexican meat market literally right across the street from my house. And so he bought some pastor and some marinated chicken the other day, and we had that. And so again, ingredients, but also to me, that feels like semi-homemade because they marinated it. And somebody mentioned they don't want me to talk while the fridge is open, so I'm gonna make this really fast. I'm just gonna organize things and then I'll talk about all of these extra tips and things. The reason why I wanted to make a video like this is I'm genuinely interested on what other people might think when I say something like I'm about to do a full grocery shop for the week and all I pick up is 5 or 6 ingredients to complete meals. I use what I have on hand and only pick up things that I need to complete meals. That's how I do it, and that's how I save thousands. But I'm interested to know when I say, oh, this is my full grocery haul, what that might look like to you. So what does a full grocery haul look like in your household? So this is something a little weird that I think a lot of people don't do, is I usually freeze our leftovers. So since there's like a couple of little pieces of these breadstick bites or something in here, there's only a few, I might freeze those and save them for later. And I also freeze my own leftovers too, not just takeout leftovers, but these all go in the freezer, and that really adds to my inventory every week. And people sometimes wonder, why do you have a full pantry, fridge, and freezer all the time? I don't understand how you're doing that. And that's because I try not to throw anything out. I try to use it for something. But there's always a lot of ways to use things to avoid purchasing things later on. So I feel like that's a huge difference in my household, maybe that a lot of people don't do. But I do save leftovers from restaurants and from anytime that I cook a meal, I just save my leftovers in the freezer. When people say, how do you have so much on hand all the time? I wonder if maybe they don't cook with things like dry beans, because a lot of these ingredients that I have on hand last a lot longer than canned items or prepared foods usually do. So I can stretch these a lot longer, and that's why they see them sitting in my pantry for so long. I've got these pinto beans, I've got black beans, and I've just got a lot of dry beans, and they last a really long time, and I just haven't gotten around to going through all of them because I try to keep a variety in our meals every single week. So I don't eat beans with every single meal. I try to make sure I just offer different meals every single day to keep things interesting. And with our picky eaters, we have to make sure that we don't overdo it on some of my favorite ingredients, just to make sure they're actually going to try the dinner that I make. Also, I want to take you grocery shopping with me today and show you what a full grocery haul might look like to me if I was making a full haul like somebody else might be implying a full haul is. I want to show you what I kind of think that is. This is going to be a bigger haul. It's the beginning of the month for me. It is October 1st. And so it's going to be a relatively big haul because I'm starting off the month strong. And then throughout the month, I try to make it work with what we have on hand and only buy small amounts of things to make up for things. So it's kind of like I'm restocking a few staples and picking up a few extras today. But I want to show you what a large haul looks like in my house. And then I'll show you some recipes or things that I'm making with what I picked up. 39-cent avocados, what? That's a good deal. All right, perfect. 6. Let's look for berries. $1.74 strawberries, what? $2.29 raspberries. So let's get 1 raspberry. One strawberry for $1.74. Here's some blackberries for $2.44. Okay, perfect. Spinach for $1.34. Okay. Let's see, mixed greens. It's $2.69 for this. And then the organic one is 31 cents per ounce. Even though it's $5, you get more bang for your buck. Here's $3.29. Some more room. I don't know exactly the price, but they're my favorite. These are $2.49. $2.49. But these ones are only $2.29. These ones are even cheaper. Okay, so let's do that then instead. Look, I do need olives. $1.89. $1.89 for that. Need some salsa. $2.29. Next is string cheese. $3.29. Perfect. Sliced cheese. $1.75. Okay. I'll go ahead and get Wisconsin Extra Sharp for $3.85. February 2026. I don't see the maple cookies anywhere. Yay! $2.75 too. They're on sale. Love it. Let's get two of $2.75 each. Cookies. Panko breadcrumbs, $1.99. Okay, crushed tomatoes, $1.59. I think I'll just get two this time. Planning on making a lot of chilies with all those dry beans. Might as well have two on hand. And maybe I'll get all the fixins for party mix. $2.89. I'll have to go grab those bagel chips. I thought they were gone. All right, bagel chips. I think they're $2.69. I want to try the roasted garlic this time too. This one is $9.39 a pound. It's on clearance. Before I decide, maybe I'll go peruse the frozen section. $1.59 for cream cheese. And then yogurt. $3.19. Okay. Now I need milk. $3.89 for the Fairlife lookalike. Let's get an organic 2% for $3.99. And then I'm gonna get one more of these. Okay, 1, 2, and 3. Let's see about the chicken. Which one is the red bag chicken? It must be this one, $7.99. And I think I'll get the chicken thighs for $6.99. Then I'll get corn, $1.15. And I do need nuggets, but I don't know which one. Let's get these. Hash browns, $4.99. Well, let's just get this salmon and call it a day. And I think that's everything. We've got some ice cream, $5.75, $2.99, $2.99. That's gotta be it. Ooh, I see that these are here, $2.49. I need to get these for when I make pot pie in case they're gone. Last time they were gone. And I want to make pumpkin pie. I added a lot of extras and a couple of things were a little bit more expensive than I thought, but I did find a lot of good deals. I ended up spending $135.97 today, so not too bad for everything that I got. As always, now that I'm home, I'm gonna go ahead and wash all my berries right away. And this is something that I do even though I am so tired and I don't wanna do anything right now. I just wanna sit and eat breakfast. But if I don't get this done, all of these berries will go bad pretty quickly and go to waste. So I'm just gonna get them ready so I don't have to worry about it in the morning and I don't have to stress anymore. So this will take me about 5 minutes. I'll get it all done, put it in the fridge, and then it'll be ready for the week. All right, my berries are washed and I'm just gonna go ahead and make my breakfast now. I'm still really tired. I just have to put the berries away. You know what, it's my own doing. I've been staying up too late trying to get me time and then I miss out on some sleep. So it's my fault. Now, one of the things I've been just kind of thinking things over about what kind of tips I could give for people that don't like to cook or don't have the time to cook. And I think maybe buying whole foods that just require assembling and don't require any cooking, that could be a solution for saving a lot of money. Like I mentioned before, doing semi-homemade things too, like you know, waffles or pancakes could help kind of cut down on some of the time. But a breakfast made of just yogurt and oats and milk or water and maybe some chia seeds or milled flax, that would be a super easy thing that takes about 5 minutes to put together and put in the fridge, and you could have all of your meal prep done for about 4 days for breakfast. So that could be an option. Or like I like to do is just put yogurt with some fresh fruit and slivered almonds with some honey in a bowl. And you can add milled flax or chia seeds too to those as well. Whatever you want to add. And it literally takes like a minute to throw together. You could just, batch prep these. So while making this breakfast, I could go ahead and put the yogurt in containers and add all of the ingredients together, and it'll be ready in the fridge for like a grab and go option. So it's not cooking, it's just assembling. And I think that could be one way that people who don't have the time to cook could actually save money by not buying like a prepared parfait or something from the store, or like those little cups of yogurt with the fruit on the bottom. Those cost more than just buying whatever kind of yogurt that you like plain, and then adding any kind of fixins that you like. So I think, or like those Chobani flips or something, for instance, you can just make those at home so much less expensive. So that could be one way to save a ton of money and not add really any time, in my opinion. So that's the first thing I could come up with. I'm gonna try to think about some more tips and tricks for helping people that don't cook, maybe find some ways to cut things down on their grocery bill. So I'm just gonna make my breakfast here. I'm just gonna add some honey, milled flax, chia seeds, slivered almonds, and strawberries. And that'll be it. And I don't recommend eating flax whole. I always recommend grinding it, just because they say that it's harder to digest if it's not like milled. And Aldi was calling this milled flax, but recently I picked up a new bag because it was on sale, and it's called ground flax. So they're the same thing. It's just one is called milled and the other is called ground. They're exactly the same consistency. So I think they just changed the name of it. So if you see that, you'll know that it's the same thing. Now I like to add chia seeds as well, but the chia seeds definitely change the texture quite a bit. So I don't recommend putting a ton. I'm just gonna mix this on up together. And then I'm gonna add some fruit and some nuts on top, and that'll be my breakfast. Delicious, made of mostly whole foods, or all whole foods really, and didn't require any cooking, super fast. At Aldi right now, they have the bagel chips and all of the rice and corn squares. So I'm gonna go ahead and whip up a batch of Chex Party Mix with just random stuff that I have on hand, plus the corn squares, rice squares, and bagel chips that I picked up today. So let me show you how I make it. So first I'm gonna melt 1 stick of butter. I usually do anywhere between 6 and 8 tablespoons. It just depends on the day, honestly. But for this first batch of the season, I'm gonna go all in and do a whole stick of butter. And that's, again, 8 tablespoons altogether, or 4 ounces. Here we go, let's get this melted. So while I'm waiting for the butter to melt, I'm just gonna add all my ingredients here into my mixing bowl that I want to get coated. And you can get creative and add anything that you like, but I just like this combination. Some people say they like to add cheese crackers, and some people want, M&Ms and all kinds of stuff, but I just like the basics. So I'm just gonna add 3 cups each of rice squares and corn squares. 1, you got it. 2, 3. Now I'll add 3 cups of rice squares. 3. This is all I have left of pretzels, so I'm just gonna add this right in. Also gonna be adding some oyster crackers. Again, this is totally optional, and I don't always add them, but they are really delicious. Maybe a little less than a cup. Then I'll add about a cup of bagel chips that I break apart. I might add more than that though. Let's see how much we have. I'm gonna use this much for the bagel chips. I'm gonna break them apart too, because otherwise they're really, really giant. But you can use as much or as little as you like. Now I'm gonna add some roasted and unsalted cashews as well. And I'm just gonna add a half a cup because they're not my favorite, but my husband likes nuts in the Chex Mix. I'm gonna set this aside for now, and then I'm gonna put together my melted butter mixture here. Now I'm gonna add 3 tablespoons of Worcestershire sauce. 1, 2, 3. Next I'll add about a teaspoon of seasoned salt or so. And you can definitely adjust this part because it's gonna make it very salty. Maybe we'll just do 3/4 of a teaspoon or so of seasoned salt. I really don't know that I need that much because everything is salted except for the cashews. Then for garlic powder, I'm gonna add 3/4 of a teaspoon or so, if I have that much here. Yeah, there we go. And onion powder, I'll add about a half of a teaspoon of onion powder. There we go. I'll give that a mix. So I'm gonna go ahead and pour my butter mixture on top here, and then I'll give it a stir. Now you can use a roasting pan, but this time to get it crispier a little bit faster, I'm just gonna use baking trays lined with parchment. So I'm just gonna evenly get this onto the pan here, and I'll use 2 pans to make sure that it cooks a little bit faster. We like it really nice and crispy. So I'll keep this in the oven at 250 degrees Fahrenheit for about 2 hours, probably an hour and a half, 2 hours, depending on how crispy it gets. And then I'll stir every 20 minutes or so. Some people like to do it in less time, but we really like it nice and crispy. So I think it's just personal preference. Once it comes out, I'll let it cool completely, put it in an airtight container. It'll last in the pantry for up to 2 weeks or so. And tonight for dinner, I'm gonna go ahead and prep the salmon. I'm just going to debone it and then slice it in half and marinate it. And then I'm just gonna let it marinate for maybe 2 hours. And then I will get it in the oven to bake. We're gonna be pairing this with some mashed potatoes from the freezer and probably some broccoli. So I'm just gonna kind of marinate this for a couple hours in soy sauce, honey, and some ginger. I'm just gonna use ground ginger. So I'm just gonna go ahead and pour the soy sauce right on top. Normally I make the marinade separate and then mix it up and then add the salmon to it. But this time I'm just gonna do it a little bit differently and then see how this turns out. Okay, so I'm gonna put this, I'm not gonna bake this with the skin side up. I'll bake it with the skin side down, but in order to get a good marinade on it with such little liquid in here, I'm just gonna go ahead and leave it with the skin side up while it marinates, and then I'll flip it right before cooking. Just put the lid on, and I'll put this in the fridge for about an hour or two until we're ready to cook. It's been about 2 hours or so. I'm gonna go ahead and pull these out. They look absolutely incredible. Can't wait to taste test this batch. Nothing better than homemade party mix. I've prepped some carrots and some grape tomatoes for the salad, and I do want to grab my frozen corn down here and maybe make some skillet roasted corn to go on top too, because I love roasted corn in my salad. I've got the mashed potatoes from the freezer here. I like to flatten them so they thaw a lot faster too. I totally forgot to thaw these out. I didn't actually plan to make the salmon tonight, but here we are. So I'm just gonna heat them up from frozen. It'll work great. I'm gonna get my oven set to 400 now, get that started. And this is definitely one of my favorite ways to make something that's homemade that doesn't take a whole lot of effort too, especially when I'm pairing it with something that I get to pull out of the freezer. Even convenience foods work great to go on the side with the salmon, so it's super versatile. I'm just gonna go ahead and take the lid off and get this in the oven. I also have to flip over so that way it's the skin side down. Flip this over. All right, let me get this in the oven for about 12 to 15 minutes or until it's 145 degrees Fahrenheit internally. And now that the party mix has cooled, I can get it into a jar. Perfect. And then I'll just get this in the pantry and it'll be good for up to 2 weeks, but it definitely isn't gonna last that long in this house. We're gonna eat it up fast. I've got my pan all warmed up for the corn here. I'm just gonna throw in some butter. Oh, it's very, very hot. Oh, nope, start over again. I'm gonna melt some butter here and throw in the frozen corn and just get that kind of roasted. Hopefully this works out okay. And I'm using salted butter, so I'm just gonna add a little bit of pepper. And then once I taste it, I can always just salt to taste. I'm building the salads while I wait for the potatoes. And this corn is roasting up really nicely. It smells amazing. So let's just give that a toss. And I think it'll start to get golden pretty soon, and then I'll take it off the heat. The corn is getting nice and caramelized too, and that's really what I want for the roasted flavor. So I think this is gonna turn out great. I don't know why I've never done this before. All right, it's been about 25 minutes or so. Let's see where we're at now. It should be 145. Okay, yep, it is done. Put some of this on my salad, and then that'll be it for that, and I'll just serve everything else up with it. Here's what the mashed potatoes look like directly from the microwave, and then we'll just add a little bit of butter, and you can always thin it out with a little bit more milk too, but they freeze really beautifully. It's definitely a mess, but this is what everything looks like, and the kids are having their salad. And this is what my salad looks like, a little bit of dressing on top. This is all the salmon that I have left. I will be making a portion for my husband as well, and for work tomorrow too. So for lunch, I'm gonna go ahead and make some rice to go with the leftover salmon from last night, and I'll just have a little rice bowl. And I'm also making enough rice for tonight's dinner too. So I'm kind of just getting ahead of the game here so I can just relax a little bit more tonight. I'm gonna be using the Instant Pot to make dinner. The rice will be ready and the microwave to be reheated. It'll be super easy. I do want to mention that there's a lot of shelf-stable options too that you can pair with cooked meats, like ramen, for instance. And if you don't want it to be soup, you can just cook it in the water and then drain out as much of the liquid as you want. And you can mix in all kinds of sauces if you'd like, and just use that kind of as a stir-fry base and add your cooked salmon or chicken, whatever you have on hand. Same thing for these noodles, which you can actually microwave as well, which I did a few days ago. I just microwaved it and then mixed it with some hoisin, soy sauce, and sriracha, and that was it for my lunch. It was super easy. I didn't have to cook anything. I just threw it in the microwave and stirred things up. That would be a great way to make a meal complete by adding some veggies that you just heated in the microwave, or some cooked meats and things like that. And that would be a super easy way to kind of take advantage of pantry ingredients without doing a whole lot of cooking and prepping and things like that. So I'm gonna grab my salmon and get that heated in the microwave. And then I'm also going to just get some of the veggies that we used for last night's dinner and add them to my bowl. So I think some shredded carrots will be nice. And this is what's great about kind of having some extra prep left over from previous days, is I can just assemble things now. And really I don't have to do any cooking whatsoever except for the rice. But it just makes it super, super simple. And I think it's a great way to avoid having to actually cook for lots of different meals. So I've got my portion of rice here for my lunch, and then I'm gonna put the rest in a container and let this cool in the fridge right away. And one way that I get this to cool a lot faster is I put a giant spoon right in the center and make sure I keep the lid off while it cools. It's super important to get rice down to a safe temperature really quickly to avoid any kind of food poisoning. So I always make sure that I do this, and then I can stir it, the first 20 minutes or so, just to make sure that it comes down to temp pretty quickly. And this will make it really perfect for dinner too, because I've got all this rice. So I'm gonna pop that in the fridge. I also remembered that I picked up some avocados, and this one is ready to go. So I'll put this on my bowl too, and it'll be super delicious. I also wanted to show you this fun trick that I learned with avocados. I washed it, always wash your avocados, but I learned that you don't actually need a knife either. So you can just kind of put it between your hands and push up and then down so it kind of cracks, and then you can just pull it apart like this. And then you can just squeeze the avocado out. And I don't do this if I want it to be pretty, but if I don't want to get something dirty, I don't want to get a knife dirty, then I'll do that. And just like that, you get your avocado and don't make as much of a mess. And I like to add a little bit of sriracha and some Kewpie mayo sometimes. And that's it. Perfect lunch. So easy to just throw together in just a few minutes. I'm also right in the middle of freezing the homemade caramel sauce that I made from our last movie night. So I'm going to freeze this because it does use evaporated milk, so I don't want it to go bad. I'll just freeze it in these little ice cube trays, and then I can use it for all kinds of things later, like to add to my coffee or espresso drinks, or to put on top of ice cream, all kinds of good ways I can use that. And I honestly think this is one of the ways that could really help people that don't cook a whole lot, that if they do end up cooking something or assembling something, maybe batch cook it, make a bunch of it, and then you can freeze some for later if you have enough freezer space. Then you can just easily grab what you want in portions, and then you don't have to worry about cooking as much or spending as much money. And so I love doing this kind of thing. It really has saved us thousands of dollars, just saving everything and not wasting anything. I was gonna make honey soy or honey garlic chicken for dinner tonight, because that's what my son requested, but I think I'm going to change it up and kind of make it more like a barbecue sauce. He loves barbecue. So I think I'll do that in my Instant Pot using the frozen chicken thighs and breasts that I have. And this is going to be a really easy thing to just throw everything in the pot and press go. And then it'll be super easy to pair with whatever we have on hand. And I think it's a great recipe for anybody who really can't do a whole lot of cooking for whatever reason, because it uses just a lot of random stuff that's in the fridge and the pantry. First, I'm just gonna throw a couple of chicken breasts and chicken thighs here in the Instant Pot. And these were the chicken thighs that were on sale for $6.99 too for the package. So I love a good deal. All right, so let's just put a bunch of chicken in here. That way we have plenty. Now I'm gonna pour just a little bit of water here so that way it doesn't get the burn notice as well. And now I'm gonna make a little bit of a sauce because I do have barbecue sauce, but I don't have enough barbecue sauce to put in this recipe. So I'm just gonna kind of, make something a little extra here. So I'm gonna use some ketchup. A little bit of honey, and I'm just gonna eyeball everything. And you can kind of add as much or as little as you like. A little bit of apple cider vinegar for some tanginess, and some Worcestershire too. Should add a little bit of sugar too. I know that the ketchup has some in it as well, so we'll just add a little bit of brown sugar. And then of course the honey adds sweetness too. But I always feel like barbecue sauce always kind of tastes like brown sugar. I always say just use what you have on hand, make it work. So I'll get this all mixed up and then I'll taste it. A little bit more Worcestershire. It definitely needs something here. A little bit of onion powder here. I have a little garlic powder left. Let me see if I have any in the pantry here. So I don't have any garlic powder, so I'm just gonna use a little bit of minced garlic that I got from the freezer here. It's just extra that I minced up one day, so I'm just gonna add a little bit in here, and that'll work out. Add a little bit of garlic here. And then this is the barbecue sauce I have, but you can see there's just a little bit left. So I'll just add this in. It's making a mess. Well, you wouldn't be cooking with me if it didn't get messy. Oh my gosh. So that'll work. I'm just gonna top this with our barbecue sauce concoction here. And I'll use a spatula, of course, to get everything out of this bowl. We'll just get this sealed and cooked. I'm just gonna put this on sealing. Then I'm gonna set it on high pressure for maybe, or medium pressure, whatever, normal pressure, for maybe 22 to 25 minutes. It is frozen, so it's been a long time since I made this, maybe 25 minutes. And then I'm gonna let it natural release for a good while after that, maybe 20 minutes or so, maybe till the pin drops, because I wanna make sure it's nice and cooked through. And then we'll make sure that it's cooked, and then I'm gonna shred it, and then I'll see you after that. Also, this recipe works really good in the slow cooker too, so if you're not an Instant Pot person, you can do slow cooker. You can also do it on the stove top in a pot. That'll work just fine too. Obviously, you're just gonna let it simmer away until all of the chicken is cooked through and then shred it. And you can even do it in the oven, just don't add any liquid. And you can just baste everything with the barbecue sauce and then cook until everything is, you know, cooked through, and then shred it. So it's a really easy recipe to modify depending on what you have to use in your kitchen. Right now I'm just putting my brown sugar in an airtight container, and I'm gonna throw a couple marshmallows in there to keep it from getting, you know, hard. I don't know why it works, but I used mini marshmallows last time, and I'm gonna use big marshmallows this time, so it's a little easier to avoid the marshmallows. I'm gonna pop this in the pantry, and my chicken is cooking, so I'll be back in just a little bit to show you what's next. All right, so I released the steam after maybe about 18 minutes or so. So let's go ahead and open this up and make sure it's cooked properly. Let's see if it's 165 internally. Yep. All right, so let's just shred up this chicken, and then I'm going to put it on saute for a little bit until we're ready to eat here. I'm gonna make the salads and heat everything up, and then get everything served up. I've just made a basic cornstarch slurry with 1 tablespoon of cornstarch and 2 tablespoons of water. And I've got this on saute, so I'm just gonna add that in to get this a little bit thicker. And then I can serve it on up as soon as it thickens. Here's my son's plate, my daughter's salad, and here's my daughter's plate. Here's my dinner and my salad, and that's it. Super easy dinner. And again, for lunch today, I'm just gonna have some leftovers. So I'm going to have some of the barbecue chicken and then some of the rice, or I could put some on a sandwich, but I should probably go through this rice before it goes bad. There is just a little bit left too. And I can always use the bread for all kinds of other stuff later. So I'm just gonna pair these two and maybe have, you know, a few baby carrots or just some random veggies that I have on hand, and that'll be lunch. I hope you got a few ideas for some new things to try or things to try in your home to make things a little bit easier. If you have any extra tips and tricks on how to make some meals without having to cook a whole lot, but still sticking to more whole foods, or maybe things that are a little bit less processed, I would love to hear that, because it always seems to be a pretty big challenge for a lot of people. So leave that down below in the comments. Now YouTube thinks you'd like to watch another video, so go ahead and click on that wherever it is. Enjoy it, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.